There is one piece of paper, one form that the government of Canada will never phone you about, never knock on your door about, and never send you a friendly little reminder to fill in. And yet, for a Canadian senior on a modest income, that single form can put more than $1,000 a month tax-free into your bank account on top of your old age security. Let me say that number a different way so it really lands. That is over $13,000 a year that thousands upon thousands of seniors in this country are fully entitled to and simply never collect. Not because they don't qualify, but because nobody ever handed them the form and said, here, this one's yours. So today, I'm going to hand it to you. I'll tell you exactly what the form is, exactly who qualifies, and I want you to stop assuming you earn too much, because that single assumption is the most expensive mistake a senior can make. And then near the end, I'll show you an insider version of this, a second document that almost nobody knows about that can push your payment even higher. So get a pen, because by the end of this video, you'll know precisely what to file and precisely how much money it could be worth to you. And I don't say any of that lightly. This isn't a trick. It isn't a loophole, and it isn't charity. It is money the government has already set aside with your name on the line item that you paid toward your whole working life. The only thing standing between you and it is one form that nobody ever told you to send in. I'm Dr. Elizabeth Thorne. I spent years analyzing Canada's retirement tax and benefit system. And the thing that still bothers me most after all these years is this. The system is built to collect from you the second you owe $1, but it will quietly sit on money that belongs to you for years and never say a word. The tax man finds you. The benefits wait to be asked. I'm not a financial advisor, and I'm not selling you anything. I'm just going to walk you through the one form I wish someone had put in front of my own parents. So let's get into it. And I want to be honest with you about why it works this way, because once you see it, you'll never wait for permission again. A system that automatically paid out every dollar to every person who qualified would cost a great deal more than one that quietly waits to see who knows enough to ask. That's not me being cynical. It's just the arithmetic of it. The forms exist. The money is budgeted. But the effort of claiming it is placed squarely on you, the senior, at the exact stage of life when navigating government paperwork is hardest. So the people who end the year better off aren't luckier than you, and they didn't earn $1 more. They simply knew which form to send, and they sent it. Today you become one of those people. So what is this magical piece of paper? It's the application for something called the Guaranteed Income Supplement, the GIS. And I need you to understand what the GIS actually is, because the name is boring and the reality is anything but. The GIS is a monthly tax-free payment that sits right on top of your old age security for seniors whose income is on the lower side. And here is the part that stops people in their tracks. Your basic old age security, if you're between 65 and 74, is around $740 a month right now. The guaranteed income supplement for a single senior can be worth up to about $1,100 a month on its own. Look at those two numbers side by side because it's astonishing. The supplement, the extra, can actually be larger than the old age security it sits on top of for a senior living on just their OAS. Claiming the GIS doesn't add a little bit to the check. It can more than double the government money landing in your account every single month. That is what one form does. Let me make that real, because numbers on their own can wash over you. Picture a woman, I'll call her Margaret, 68 years old, living alone in a small apartment, getting by on just her old age security. That's about $740 a month coming in. She's careful, she's proud. She's never asked anyone for anything in her life. And she is quietly going without, turning the heat down, skipping things she needs because $740 does not go far anywhere in this country in 2026. Now, Margaret files her taxes and puts in that one application because her income is low. She qualifies for the guaranteed income supplement near the top of the range. Call it around $1,100 a month. Her total government income goes from about $740 to over $1,800 a month overnight, on paper with one form. That is the difference between a senior who dreads the first of the month and one who can breathe. And the tragedy is that a Margaret who never files or who talks herself out of applying gets none of it. And the government simply keeps quiet and keeps the money. Same woman, same rules. The only difference is the form. So the obvious question is, if this is worth over $1,000 a month, why on earth does anyone miss it? And the answer breaks my heart a little because it comes down to three quiet reasons. And every one of them is fixable. The first reason is the big one. So listen carefully. People stop filing a tax return, they retire, their income drops, and they think, I barely make anything now. Why would I bother filing? And that one decision switches off the GIS completely because the government calculates your GIS every year from your tax return. No return, no calculation, no payment. If money is tight, filing your taxes is not about what you owe. It's the doorway this check comes through. If you take nothing else from this video, take that. The second reason is the one I want you to fight the hardest, and it's this. People decide all on their own that they earn too much to qualify. They never even apply, and they are wrong far more often than they are right. Let me give you the actual line. For a single senior, you can generally qualify for at least some GIS if your income, and this is your income not counting your old age security itself, is under roughly $22,800 a year. For couples, the limits are different and often higher than people expect. Now, I've watched people wave this away. Oh, that's for folks worse off than me, while they were sitting a few hundred under that line and had simply never done the arithmetic. So here is my rule, and I want you to make it your rule. Never disqualify yourself. You do not get to decide you don't qualify. The math decides. Your job is simply to apply and let the numbers speak. The worst thing that happens is they say no, and you are exactly where you started. The best thing that happens is more than $1,000 a month you didn't know was yours. And two more things people get wrong on the qualifying because they cost real money. First, if you're a couple, don't assume you're over the line. The income limits for couples are different and often higher than people expect, especially when you're both receiving old age security. Run it. Don't guess. And second, this is the one people really miss. The guaranteed income supplement is not all or nothing. It's a sliding scale. Even if you don't qualify for the full amount, you might still qualify for a partial payment of a few hundred a month. And I promise you, nobody has ever turned their nose up at a few hundred a month tax-free for the rest of their life. Partials still spend, so the fact that you know you're not destitute is not a reason to skip this. It might just mean your check is smaller, not that there's no check. And the third reason is the simplest of all. They were never automatically enrolled, and no one ever told them to apply. For a lot of seniors, the GIS is now added on automatically once you're getting old age security and you file your taxes, but not for everyone. Some people have to actually send in the application. And if you're one of them and you're waiting for a letter that's never coming, you could be missing this month after month after month. So the fix is straightforward. File your tax return and then check directly with Service Canada through your My Service Canada account or by calling them whether your GIS is active. If it isn't and your income fits, you apply. That's it. That's the form. One application and it can be worth $1,100 a month for the rest of your life. And here's something most people never realize about the GIS, which makes that one form worth even more than the number I gave you. Getting the GIS is a master key that quietly unlocks other doors. In most provinces, being on the Guaranteed Income Supplement automatically qualifies you for a provincial top-up on top of it. In Ontario, it's called Gains. British Columbia has its Senior Supplement, and most other provinces have their own version. You usually don't even apply separately. Being on the GIS switches it on. And it very often goes further than that. GIS recipients frequently get extra help with prescription drug costs, with dental care, with property taxes, and energy bills, because a lot of provincial programs use "Are you on the GIS?" as their shortcut for "Does this senior need help?" So when I tell you this one form can be worth $1,100 a month, understand that the real number, once you count everything it unlocks behind it, is often quite a bit higher. One application, a whole chain of benefits. Now, before I show you the insider document, and this next part is genuinely the piece almost nobody knows, so stay with me. I want to make sure you've got the foundation, because the insider trick only works once you understand how the GIS is counted. Here's the mechanism. The GIS is income tested. That means the more other income you have, the smaller your GIS gets. It tapers off. As a rough rule, for every extra dollar of income you bring in, your GIS drops by about 50 cents. That sounds like bad news, but I want you to flip it around, because inside that rule is a completely legal way to increase your check. If income is what shrinks your GIS, then the income you can control, and when you take it, suddenly matters enormously. And this is where most seniors are leaving money on the table without ever realizing it. Watch this, because it's one of the most useful things I can tell you. Not all money counts the same way for GIS. Money you take out of a registered retirement savings plan, an RRSP or a RRIF, counts as income, and it will reduce your GIS. But money you take out of a tax-free savings account, a TFSA, does not count as income for the GIS calculation at all. Do you see what that means? Two seniors can pull the exact same $10,000 out of their savings in a year to live on. The one who takes it from an RRIF can watch their GIS get chopped. The one who takes it from a TFSA keeps every penny of their supplement, same money in their pocket, a very different check from the government. So the order you draw your savings in retirement can be worth thousands of dollars a year in preserved GIS. I'm not telling you to make a complicated move on your own. This is exactly the kind of thing to sit down with a tax preparer or a free tax clinic about. But you cannot ask the question if you don't know it exists. Now you know it exists. And this cuts the other way too. So let me warn you about the mistake that quietly wipes out people's GIS because it catches good, careful seniors every year. Here's the trap. The GIS you get this year is calculated from last year's income. So if you take one big lump sum out of your RRSP or your RRIF in a single year, maybe to fix the roof, help a grandchild, or because someone told you to cash things out, that one withdrawal can spike your income for that year and then chop your GIS for the entire following year. People pull out $20,000 once and are baffled when their supplement collapses months later. If you know a big withdrawal is coming, that is precisely the conversation to have with a tax preparer first. Because sometimes spreading it over 2 years or taking it from a TFSA instead can save you thousands in GIS you'd otherwise lose. The government won't warn you before you do it. I just did. All right, I promised you an insider document, a second form that can push a GIS payment dramatically higher. And this is the one that even a lot of well-informed seniors have simply never heard of. So if this is the only thing you remember from today, let it be this. Because for the right family, it is worth a fortune. It's for couples. Imagine a husband and wife, both seniors, and one of them becomes ill enough that they have to move into a nursing home or a long-term care facility. They are still married. They still love each other, but now for reasons entirely beyond their control, they are living apart. Most couples in that heartbreaking situation just carry on being assessed as a couple. Their two incomes added together, and because of that combined income, they get little or no GIS. But here is what almost no one tells them. When a couple is separated for reasons beyond their control and one spouse moving into care is the classic example, you can apply to have each of you assessed as a single person for the guaranteed income supplement. There is a specific form for this. It's called the Statement of Spouses or Common Law Partners Living Apart for Reasons Beyond Their Control or Involuntary Separation. And I'll put the exact form name and number in the description below so you can find it in 30 seconds. And here's why that one form is so powerful. When you're assessed as two singles instead of one couple, the government stops adding your incomes together and looks at each person on their own. And since one person's income alone is almost always far lower than the two of them combined, the GIS can jump sometimes by hundreds of dollars a month for each of them. Let me put numbers on it so you can feel the size of this. Take a couple whose combined income means they get almost no GIS as a pair. One spouse goes into a care home. They file the involuntary separation form, and now each is looked at alone. The spouse in care with very little income of their own can suddenly qualify for GIS near the top of the range. And the spouse still at home, also now assessed on just their own income, can qualify too. A family that was getting next to nothing can end up with hundreds of dollars a month per person that simply wasn't visible while their incomes were being stacked together. That is not a trick. That is the rule working the way it was written for exactly the families who need it most at exactly the moment it costs the most to keep a loved one cared for. On top of that, this can be paid retroactively for up to the last 11 months. So an approval can arrive with a lump sum attached. Think about that, a family already carrying the emotional weight and the enormous cost of a spouse in care, which is exactly when money is tightest. And there is a single form that can unlock hundreds of dollars a month they were entitled to the whole time. If you know a couple in this situation, a parent, a neighbor, a friend from church, this might be the most important thing you ever pass along to them. That is the insider document. That is the one they hope you never ask about. And there's a related pair of payments I want you to know about while we're here because they run on the same idea. If you are between 60 and 64, too young for your own old age security, and your spouse is receiving the GIS, or you've lost your spouse and you're on a low income, there are two payments called the allowance and the allowance for the survivor. They're a bridge designed to carry a lower income spouse or widow through those years before their own OAS begins. And like everything else today, they have to be applied for. Almost nobody in that 60 to 64 window knows they exist. Now you do. So let me pull this together because I don't want any of it to slip away from you. The core of everything today is one form, the application for the guaranteed income supplement that can be worth up to about $1,100 a month, more than $13,000 a year tax-free on top of your old age security. It gets switched on by filing your tax return every single year, no matter how low your income. You must not disqualify yourself. Let the math decide. You can legally protect and even increase it by being smart about which accounts you draw your income from, because TFSA money doesn't count and RRIF money does. And if a couple is split up by a move into care, the involuntary separation form can push it higher still, with a lump sum going back nearly a year. Now, everything I've just walked you through, the GIS, the income limits, the exact forms and the form numbers, the TFSA versus RRIF timing, the involuntary separation rule, the allowance, and the dozens of other ways a Canadian senior's money quietly slips through the cracks over a year, I've put it all into one plain English guide. I call it the Smart Retirement Playbook. It's the same thing I'd sit and walk a family member through at my own kitchen table, laid out so you can go down it line by line and never leave your own money on the table again. The link is in the description, and it's there whenever you want the whole thing in one place. Now let me give you the exact steps to actually turn this into money in your account. So here is your action list for this week. Write these 5 things down. Number 1, if you haven't filed your most recent tax return, get it done. Book a free tax clinic if you need to, because that is the master switch that turns the GIS on. Number 2, find out through your My Service Canada account or by phoning Service Canada directly whether you are actually receiving the Guaranteed Income Supplement. A lot of people assume they are and aren't. Number 3, if you're not getting it and your income is anywhere near that limit, apply. Do not talk yourself out of it. Number 4, if you or a couple you love has one spouse moving into care, look into the involuntary separation form, because it could be worth hundreds a month plus a lump sum. And number 5, before you pull money out of savings this year, ask a tax preparer whether taking it from a TFSA instead of an RRIF could protect your supplement. 5 moves, every one of them puts money back where it belongs with you. Because here is the truth I want you to carry out of this video. That $13,000 a year is not a gift, and it is not a favor, and it is not something you should ever feel small about asking for. It is money that was set aside for you by a system you paid into your entire working life, and the only thing that was ever standing between you and it was one form that nobody put in your hands. Well, now it's in your hands. If this helped you, do me a favor and send it to one other senior you care about, a friend, a neighbor, your brother, or your sister, because I promise you, there is someone in your life leaving $1,000 a month on the table right now, and they have absolutely no idea. And subscribe, because plain English money that's actually yours, explained by someone who spends their life analyzing the system, is exactly what I do here. I'm Dr. Elizabeth Thorne. Go and claim what's yours.